All right, 49ers fullback, punt returner, Gardner, second most famous Juszczyk in the building, Kyle Juszczyk. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I have a question for you. Like, we'll get to real stuff in a second. I've always wanted to ask somebody this, and I've never really gotten a chance, and I don't want to forget.
Okay.
You did a handshake with Deebo after his touchdown in Seattle.
Yep.
One, how does the creation of that handshake come about? And two, when do you practice those things?
Yeah, all at practice. And
Perfect.
we're all almost everybody kind of has like a handshake with each other. You know, I think I've got a handshake with almost every skill player on the team. But it just kind of like, I don't know how we even like came up with our like official thing. It just kind of happens organically. We just start like messing around and we're like, oh wait, there's something there. And then with Deebo and I, it's like it ends with like pouring the juice out.
Right.
So like, I don't know. It just kind of, over time has developed and you just kind of throw things at the wall and eventually you get something that sticks.
Incredible.
How much practice time does it take to where you feel comfortable doing it in a game situation?
Normally, once we can land it, 2 or 3 times in a row, I'm ready to ride. Let's go. Let's put it in the game.
Excellent. Love it. Okay, that's it.
Fair enough.
Thanks so much, man.
All right, cool. We'll talk to you guys.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting year, I think, to say the least, from at least an outsider's perspective. And I think there are two minds to look at this. And I know Kyle Shanahan has talked about it a little bit or been asked about it by reporters, but there's the idea that because you guys sort of got off to slower starts in 2021 and 2022, that you guys might kind of be used to this. Obviously 3-3 is probably not the record that you envision for the team right now, but do you personally go back and think about those slow starts? And is there anything you can apply to this year? Or is it more just like, nah, that's in the past, the new team, new year, doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit of both. You're not going into the season like, hey, whatever, these first couple games, we've come back from worse. Like, so let's just chill out and make sure we're good to go for the end of the season. Like, that's definitely not the case where, we want to start well, we want to start off 5-0 like we did last year. But I think having gone through it before at least gives you the comfort and the ability to know that like, this is not insurmountable, that we've done this before, we can do it again. And even as ugly as 3-3 looks to us, at the end of the day, we're in first place in our division. I think I saw some stat last week of, 90% of teams last week were 3-2 or 2-3. Like this is the NFL. Like it's not, you don't always just cruise through teams, start the season 8-0, start the season 5-0. Like this is the NFL. Like these are all very good teams. And, there's just such a minuscule gap between one team to the next. And so at 3-3, first in our division, we still have all our goals in front of us, and we know that we can still play so much better. So, at least it's nice to fall back on that.
One of the areas you guys, I believe probably want to improve on is in the red zone. That's something we've talked about a lot here on this podcast and writing, doing various media stuff. Is that something that you guys, obviously you guys recognize it and understand it, but is that something that you're now putting extra work into, or is it an emphasis in meetings? How does that go for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's every week, Fridays, that's our red zone day. And every week we're going to install new plays for the red zone. We go out there and practice them just as much as we did the week prior. But I think where more of the emphasis comes is just when we're in the huddle, when we're inside the 20, we're inside the huddle, like every time we're looking at each other like, all right, we got to punch this one in. We got to put this one in the box. We got to count by 6. We can't count by 3. And I think just that little reminder to each other is enough to just kind of like, all right, lock in. These plays are critical. Let's make sure we go out there and we execute.
One thing I'm always curious to hear about from players is just year to year, like how opponents change in terms of the way they're playing you. And obviously what Brock did last year, a lot of completions over the middle on crossers, and there was some quick game stuff. And But this year, it's like you look at all the numbers, and Brock is, the most aggressive quarterback, or the second most aggressive quarterback in terms of average depth of target, right? And for reasons that, and maybe I can ask you this too, but you guys, I think, are 26th in yak overall, and I think 29th in yak per reception, something like that. Is the offense looking different a product of you guys being defended differently than you have been in the past, or is this kind of an evolutionary step in the way, Kyle Shanahan's wants to push this offense into the future and Brock's development, or what's the difference between the offense looking so different this year?
Like everything, I think it's a combination of both. I think when you speak about the yak numbers, it's harder to get, yards after catch or contact when you're throwing the ball downfield more. Whereas, when you get these short dump offs, that's when it's kind of easier to get yards after catch, because defenses are further back. And I think for so many years we were known for these in-breaking routes, throwing the ball over the middle. Like that was most definitely our bread and butter. So teams are going to start to adjust to that. And it's just kind of natural that, then we start throwing out breaking routes. And it's a cyclical thing. And I'm sure by the end of the season, like throwing the ball over the middle is going to be our bread and butter again. And it's always going to continue to go back and forth. It's a chess match. So that's where I really do think it's a little bit of both. It's the evolution of the offense. It's Brock being more comfortable in the pocket and, staying in there longer to take shots downfield. It's how teams play us. It's always a little bit of everything.
It looks like Brock Purdy is approaching the offense differently, kind of for some of the reasons that Chris just mentioned, but it's also his first year having a full off season going into this year. Have you noticed anything different with him, just in how he carries himself in the huddle, the way he's playing? Get that palm in, nice.
Yeah, you like that.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm always hesitant on this question, because I don't want to downplay how great Brock was the second he got in the huddle his rookie year. He really was so impressive as soon as he got in there, and the way that he commanded the huddle, the way he, got everyone's respect, how he led the team, and how he played as well. I mean, the guy won, I don't know, I can't remember, like 9 games in a row as a rookie, and that wasn't just because he's such a good guy and he's such a great leader. Like it's also because he could play really damn well. He can throw the football really well. He can lead an offense really well. So I don't want, to say that he's gotten better each year. I don't want to downplay how great he was initially, but I really do think, I think he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I think he continues to prove that each week and just how he goes and plays. And I think, yes, all of us, we can continue to get better. And I think he'll say the same thing about himself. But I'm so proud of the player that he's been from the beginning and how he's progressed since.
There was, and look, we're in the podcast content creation business. So we were definitely part of it too. But in August, what the conversation was like, at least around the team, right? There was the stuff with Trent Williams. There was the Brandon Ayuk stuff, the Christian McCaffrey stuff to a certain extent. And you, even in the offseason with, the pay cut stuff, which you've talked about at length. I'm curious, obviously the standard answer is next week, 1 week at a time, next opponent and all of that thing. But at some point, human nature does creep in. And when you have, yourself and so many other guys dealing with contractual things going into a season, not that I'm trying to make excuses for you guys in terms of what the record was to start the year or whatever, right. But how does that impact you as a professional, as a human, and the team overall when there are a multitude of guys dealing with some of those sort of contractual things?
Yeah. Honestly, when it's not yourself going through those issues, it doesn't affect you that much. Not having Brandon there, not having Trent there, during training camp and all that, it really doesn't affect me too much personally. Because at the end of the day, I still have a job to do. I still have to go out there and execute and just do whatever is in front of me. And whether Brandon's out there, whether Trent's out there, doesn't really make a huge difference in what I'm doing. And like, yes, like I want them there. And it, there'd be less stress just kind of from the outside world and how much people are talking about it. Honestly, I think that is the biggest stressor, is just people talking about it and expecting you to be stressed about it and expecting it to affect you. When, I mean, I want those guys there. They're some of the best players in the NFL. They're some of my best friends. Like, I want them around. But them not being there isn't going to necessarily change how I perform, So, I don't know. I guess that's kind of the message that I'm always trying to get across, that like, and why I think the Niners have, notoriously, like people have said, like, we've been able to handle the, people not contractual situations well in the locker room. It's like, it really, contractual things are very personal to you, and at the end of the day, I think we've signed all these guys that have had these contractual issues, quote unquote. So at the end of the day, the guys get back in the locker room. They're the same people they were before. They still work their butts off. They're still incredible players. So it doesn't, I don't feel like it's a good excuse for a slow start for us.
Sure.
One of the players who was not available for most of training camp and hasn't been available yet this season, Christian McCaffrey, hopefully, back soon, but Jordan Mason has stepped in and really been outstanding. Has that been an adjustment for you guys at all offensively? I know there's things you probably can't say, but is there adjustment just in his running style and what he brings to the game?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, granted, JP Mason and Christian McCaffrey, two great players, but two very different players, different skill sets. I don't think it's any mystery that, Christian gets more involved in the pass game than JP does. I mean, you've seen it in numbers where, Christian's had 1,000 yards receiving, and I don't think JP is quite there this year. But yeah, exactly. But, can run the ball with the best of them. So, you take the strengths of each one of them when they're out there. But, man, when we get Christian back in this offense and you have both those guys, I think that's going to be so critical for us. And I think that's going to add so much to our offense. Because, I mean, you take away the offensive player of the year. Anytime you do that, you expect a little bit of, I don't know, I don't want to say downfall, but, you expect the offense to take a little bit of a hit. But I think going into last week, we were still number 2 in the league in yards. And so I think that's pretty good when you're missing the offensive player of the year. So I think standard thinking would be, once you inject that guy back in the offense, things are going to be even better.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you or anybody else on the team talk about, lack of a better term, the revenge factor with the Chiefs coming? Is that like, is there a get back element to this, or is it just next opponent? Next
no, I mean, there's a little bit of that. It's never like, what you picture in like movies, like, everybody rah, 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 this is the team, we got to get them, like whatever that is. But, there's definitely mention of it as like, all right, like, we owe these guys, we've let them off the hook multiple times now, we've had them at the edge of the cliff and we couldn't quite push them off. So, you use that as motivation, whatever it takes, to finish the job this time. So we know, we know what we're facing here and what our history with the Chiefs, and we're excited to have another crack at it. And, no matter how it goes, we know, like, this isn't going to totally define our season, but to go out there and get a win against them, who's, I think, everyone would agree is one of the best teams in the league right now. That would definitely go a long way for our confidence and just for our season as a whole.
Is there, I know the most recent one was obviously the most recent, but is there, like, does one game like hurt a little bit more than the other, one Super Bowl loss, or even one of the NFC title game losses? Like, is there one that's like, oh man, this is the one that's really painful?
Hell yeah. Let's dig into it.
They all have different type of hurts. 19, that was a hurt because it was like, all right, that was our first Super Bowl. That was our first crack at it. We're up 10 with 7 minutes to go. That's like your first time experiencing it. Mm-hmm. The NFC, and I apologize, my landscapers are right outside the window if it gets loud.
It's all good.
But and then NFC Championship in Philadelphia, that one hurt because it felt like it was stripped from us. It was just taken from us. We didn't have the opportunity to really compete because we didn't have a quarterback. NFC Championship in LA, that one was, man, that was just like a crazy ride because I think we started 3-5 that year.
Mm-hmm.
We won so many games in a row. We had to go on the road in LA for the last game of the season, on the road in Dallas, on the road in Lambeau, and then back to LA. Like that was just, we had already felt like we had overcome so much. And then this last one, it's like, gosh, this again. So they all just have like different feelings to them. They all suck. I'll put it that. But like
not
but in different ways.
Not pleasant.
Sorry to bring it up. I just think it's interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So not to brag, I work in sports talk radio, and I hear the most insane things about Kyle Shanahan since 2019, dude. It's nuts. So I would like to ask you this. It's a two-part question. I'll ask the first one first because I'm a professional. What in your mind, or what to you, makes Kyle Shanahan a good coach?
I think there's a lot of things. I think his ability to relate with players, his ability to toe the line of being a player coach, but also somebody that we all very much respect. I think he does a really good job of creating personal relationships, but also holding you to a very high standard. I think that's kind of one of his superpowers. And I think obviously his ability to call games. I think he's, one of the best play callers in the league, and he does such a good job of being able to counter what defenses are throwing at us.
The second part of that is you've been there with him since 2017. How have you seen him change as a coach over that time?
I would say maybe just his comfortability of speaking in front of the team. When we first got here, there's his first time being a head coach, first time being fully in command, being in front of the entire team, being the head of the organization. And I think with 8 years of experience, anybody's going to get better at that. And you can just see his comfortability and his ability to deliver the message that he's trying to.
Yeah.
We just read Eric Branch's story in the Chronicle about your gardening. When did that start for you, and when did it become clear that like this was a really important thing for me to do for the longevity of my playing career?
Yeah, it really started when I signed with the Niners 8 years ago. Because I've always been into gardening. My mom got me into it when I was young. So that was something I always helped her out with when I was a little kid, was out in the garden. But it wasn't until I got to California that I got my own plot of land, and I had some garden boxes in the backyard that I was able to really do it myself and really dive into this whole lifestyle of recovery. And a lot of that has been the gardening. Now I have an indoor hydroponic garden that I can do year round, so the seasons don't matter. I've got my outdoor garden that I do mostly like my root vegetables and stuff, and that also stem from I learned that there's 2 to 2.5 times the amount of nutrients and vitamins in homegrown vegetables as opposed to store bought. And I really don't think it's a coincidence that I'm in year 12 in the NFL at one of the most physical positions in the league. And I feel like I'm 25 and like I'm early in my career, because I do take very seriously what I put in my body. I'll take this moment. I'm going to do my plug of, my Palm Wonderful. I am big on my pomegranate juice, super high in antioxidants, super high in potassium, fight all the free radicals in your body. And so that's another thing that I incorporate into my diet every day is a little bit of pomegranate juice, because I think over the long run, all these things add up, all the things that I put in my body, the red light therapy, the cold therapy, the massages, the acupuncture, the ART, all that type of stuff. It really does add up to where, now I'm in year 12 and I feel great. And I think because of all those different things that I've added to my lifestyle.
You know, I'm 34 and I've been thinking about picking up football. So I just sprinkle in a little Palm Wonderful in my pre and post workout.
Perfect.
And I'll be there.
Perfect.
I'm ready to start on the practice squad.
You will be on the field in no time. I'll tell Kyle.
Yeah,
we'll get you a tryout. You'll be ready to ride.
That's perfect. I can't wait. Thank you so much, man. That was great.
Yeah, no problem.
Kyle, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it so much. And stay healthy and have a good rest of the season, man.
Thanks, guys. Good talking with you.
No doubt.
See you, man.
See you later.